You landed on one of those Chiefs games that remind you exactly why you can't walk away. Messy, miraculous, and somehow unmistakably Kansas City. Let's start with a headline. Patrick Mahomes became the fastest player in NFL history to reach 35,000 career passing yards in just 123 games, and he did it in a game that needed overtime to settle. That's the kind of milestone that reads like a legacy note. But the game itself was a reminder that milestones don't erase the messy parts. The Chiefs trailed 20-9 going into the fourth quarter. They generated 0 sacks on the afternoon, and they even turned the ball over on a lost fumble and an interception returned by a defensive lineman. Those are the ugly, honest things you can't ignore. And yet, in the fourth quarter and overtime, the Chiefs outscored the Colts 14-0. Totaled 236 yards to the Colts' 18 in that span, and found ways to flip field position and hammer through drives when it mattered. That contradiction, glaring flaws plus late-game dominance, is exactly why people like Rich Eisen say they can't quit this team. Because when the chips are down, this roster and this quarterback have shown they'll keep carving a path forward. The home advantage matters too. KC is now 17-1 in their last 18 home games, which is a real psychological advantage when most of the remaining schedule still includes multiple Arrowhead dates. But don't let the home record distract you from the checklist of fixes the coaching staff needs to address. Get pressure on opposing quarterbacks, clean up turnovers, and tighten situational defense so you don't rely solely on late surges. For you watching, ask yourself this. Does Mahomes' milestone change your belief in this team's ceiling? Drop a quick yes or no in the comments or use the poll. And before we dig deeper, do this one thing for the channel. Hit subscribe to help us get to 6,000 subscribers, and smash that like button if you want more breakdowns like this. It really helps this channel grow. If you're ready, you know the funny thing about a game like this? It hands you the entire spectrum of what the Chiefs are right now. The good, the great, and the stuff that absolutely cannot travel into January. Before we get back to the comeback, we need to slow down and unpack the mistakes that nearly buried Kansas City long before overtime ever arrived. The first glaring issue was the pass rush. 0 sacks, for the first time all season. Against a Colts offense that has been streaky and inconsistent, Kansas City didn't land a single finishing blow. You felt it on those long second and third down conversions Indy kept finding in the middle quarters. With the talent up front, going an entire game without affecting the quarterback just isn't acceptable. It forces the secondary to play longer, forces linebackers to step deeper into coverage, and it compacts the entire defensive structure. It's the kind of thing that gets you beat in December if it isn't corrected. Then you look at the turnover sequence. Kareem Hunt's fumble, the team's first lost fumble all season, came at a moment when you could feel momentum actually start to shift the wrong way. Kansas City has done an excellent job protecting the football this year, so when a mistake like that shows up, it hits harder because it's so rare. Add in the interception that bounced off a defensive lineman's hands, and suddenly you're spotting the opponent opportunities they didn't even have to earn. And yet this team keeps surviving its own problems. That's the other half of the story. When you're down 20-9 and absolutely nothing looks stable, teams with weaker leadership collapse. But Kansas City didn't. They tightened their gap fits, played quicker on the perimeter, and stopped giving the Colts free yards. Even without a sack, the defense still strung together stop after stop. That's not luck. That's a championship-caliber backbone showing up after a shaky start. This is where I want you to weigh in. Between the lack of pass rush and the turnovers, which one worries you more as Kansas City heads into the toughest part of the schedule? Let me know in the comments. Your answer helps shape what we focus on next week here on the channel. And before we go deeper into Mahomes' impact and the insane historical context behind his career so far, take a second to subscribe and help us get to 6,000 subscribers. hit that like button too. It helps more fans find these breakdowns. There's a reason every late-game comeback or milestone from Patrick Mahomes lands like a trust deposit with Chiefs fans. What he does isn't just big plays, it's a pattern that rewrites what normal looks like for this franchise. Look at the milestone from the game. Fastest to 35,000 career passing yards in 123 games. That's an eye-popping marker of sustained excellence. And it comes with a deeper record book that matters even more when playoff time arrives. Since Mahomes took over as the starter, Kansas City hasn't had an early exit. The earliest their season has ended in that stretch was the AFC Championship game, and even then, it was decided in overtime. That tells you two things at once. This team consistently reaches the highest stages, and when they lose, it's usually because they were pushed the extra mile, not because they fell apart early. That kind of consistency breeds a particular kind of confidence inside the locker room. Coaches plan differently. Play callers assume they have a chance late. Opponents know they're playing with a team that finds ways, which creates both respect and pressure. Rich Eisen's point about seasons ending no earlier than the AFC Championship in the Mahomes era isn't nostalgia. It's evidence that Kansas City has built a formula that keeps them in contention year after year. Elite quarterback play, a coaching staff that rallies under pressure, and a roster that often finds answers when it matters most. Now, that doesn't make the Chiefs immune to criticism. The problems we talked about in the last chapter matter. But it does mean you can't easily write them off when December arrives. Here's where you as a fan should be paying attention. Milestones are great for the headlines, but performance in tight moments defines playoff narratives. Mahomes' ability to elevate drives, the team's late-game adjustments, and the habit of finding opportunities even when earlier quarters were ugly. Those are why you keep believing. So answer this quick poll in the comments, or vote if your platform supports it. Do you think Mahomes will lead Kansas City to another Super Bowl this season? Yes or no? I want to see what the fan base actually feels like after a roller coaster win like this. Before we move on to the rest of the schedule and what wins are truly must-have, take a second to subscribe and help push this channel to 6,000 subscribers. And hit the like button if you appreciate breakdowns that mix emotion with analysis. Now that we've broken down the comeback and the Mahomes factor, let's talk about what matters just as much: where Kansas City goes from here. Because one game doesn't define a season, but the stretch we're entering absolutely can. The Chiefs still have multiple road tests ahead. Dallas this weekend, then Tennessee, then Vegas to close out the road slate. And every one of those games has a different kind of pressure attached to it. Dallas is about proving you can win in a hostile environment against an offense that can score in bunches. Tennessee is about avoiding the classic trap scenario where a desperate team tries to drag you into a grinding, low-possession game. And Vegas, especially to close the road schedule, is about sealing off mistakes and keeping control of your playoff life. The home schedule is the part that should make you feel more secure. Kansas City has been almost unbeatable at Arrowhead, with 17 wins in their last 18 home games. They'll get Houston there, and that matchup might be the most important of all. Not just because Houston plays fast and physical, but because of tiebreakers. If you're someone who believes KC may be fighting for wild card position instead of the division, that head-to-head result becomes absolutely critical. You also finish with Denver and a few other divisional showdowns that always create surprises, no matter how lopsided the paper matchup looks. This is the part of the year where you need to think about stacking wins, not scoreboard watching. If Kansas City handles Dallas or Tennessee, it takes pressure off the final weeks. If they slip in either one, every single divisional game becomes a must-have. And remember what Rich Eisen pointed out: teams with the Chiefs' playoff pedigree have something most teams don't. The belief that December is when you start playing your best ball. A late-season surge isn't wishful thinking for Kansas City. It's the historical norm. So here's your engagement challenge for this chapter. Which remaining game on the schedule feels like the most important to you? Is it Dallas because of statement value, Houston because of potential tiebreakers, or one of the divisional matchups because they always swing the standings? Drop your pick in the comments. I want to see where the fan base stands. Before we pivot to the emotional close and talk about why nobody can quit the Chiefs, take a second to subscribe and help push the channel towards 6,000 subscribers, and hit that like button so more fans can join the conversation. When you step back from the details, the turnovers, the fourth quarter heroics, the playoff math, there's a bigger truth sitting right in front of you. Kansas City has earned every ounce of belief they get. That's why Rich Eisen's whole message hits home. It's not blind faith. It's not nostalgia. It's a 7+ year sample size of a team that refuses to go quietly, refuses to accept mediocrity, and refuses to let the moment be too big. Think about the Colts game through that lens. Everything that could tilt a game the wrong direction did. A fumble, a tipped pick, no sacks, early defensive breakdowns, slow starts on both sides. A lot of teams fold right there, especially down 29 entering the fourth quarter. But Kansas City flipped the script when it mattered most. That's not luck. That's culture. That's leadership. And that's why you can't quit them, even when the flaws are obvious. What makes this team unique is the combination of Mahomes' brilliance, Andy Reid's steadiness, and a locker room that plays with an expectation of winning. They don't panic in tight moments because they've lived in those moments more than any team in the league over the last 7 seasons. The earliest their season has ended in the Mahomes era is overtime in the AFC Championship game. That's not normal. That's not common. That's dominance, even in defeat. When your down years still end one snap away from the Super Bowl, it changes what belief looks like. And here's the final thought I want to leave you with as a fan. Every time Kansas City hits that point in a game where it feels like things are slipping, remember how many times they've walked that tightrope and still found the next step. Remember how many times they've turned a bad quarter into a season-defining moment. Remember how many teams wish they had the problems the Chiefs have. That's why you don't quit them. Because they never quit themselves. Now your final engagement question. What's the one thing you think Kansas City must fix or improve to become a legitimate threat to reach another Super Bowl run this season? Let me know your take. I want to feature some of your responses in the next breakdown. And before we wrap up, make sure you subscribe and help us reach 6,000 subscribers, and hit like so more Chiefs fans can join the discussion. Stay locked with Total Chiefs News. Hail Chiefs!